Well, hello. Rough start there. Sorry. My name is Rich Dione. I am the co-director of the Fusion Studio for Entertainment and Engineering here at Purdue University. We have a really exciting first Friday for you this week. First, we're going to talk about engineering and entertainment internships with a couple of Purdue students, which I think is going to be really fun. But more excitingly, we are partnering today with the Little Hammers podcast stream. These are students from the construction engineering program here at Purdue. They've got a podcast. We're going to work with them together. I'm going to turn this over to them. They're going to run the whole thing. You're not going to see me again until maybe at the end. So enjoy. Be sure to type questions in the chat or the question and answer. We'll get to them later. But enjoy and have a good time. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Richard. That was a nice introduction. Oh, guys, we got a special podcast for you guys today, or a little, I guess, webinar you want to call it. We got two special guests with us. We got Reilley O'Loughlin and Mason Nichols. We got a few questions for them to ask what the internship program is like and what you guys do in the entertainment industry we got. So I'm gonna let Tommy start off with some questions we got going. Again, this is Big Slice on the Body.
Tommy over here. So my first question is for Reilley, and what made you want to work in the theme park entertainment industry?
Yeah, so I think what made me want to work in themed entertainment is that I have a very distinct memory of going to Disney for the first time and riding like the ferry across to the Magic Kingdom, and just like feeling like you're in a whole different world. And I think that's a really special like experience to be a part of. Storytelling, I think, is so interesting, and getting to like take people and place them into the middle of a story is really cool to me. Along with that, I'm a super detail-oriented person, and in themed entertainment, everything's down to the detail. What you see, what you hear, what you smell, like everything's designed to put you into the story. So I just wanted to be a part of that because I think it's a great way to like serve as a background for a memory.
When you got to where was your first internship with Disney?
So I'd done 2 internships so far, and I'm going back this summer for a third. My first one, I just worked on a ride at Disney. I was just operating a ride, kind of learning the operations side. And then my second one, I was working as a project manager on infrastructure projects out at the Disneyland Resort.
So the second one, was it all like what you expected to be and better? Would you say? Like when you got to the second internship and got to do project management, do you think it was like everything that you expected and more? Like you were like, this is awesome. Like this is exactly what I wanted to do.
Yes, definitely. Every single day, I was so excited to go to work. Like my alarm would go off at like 4 a.m., but I'd be up at like 3, like ready to go. Like I want to go to work right now, because like every single day is different, and also like you're literally working at the happiest place on earth. Everybody's happy. There's kids that are like kids are so excited because oh my goodness, we're in Cars Land and Lightning McQueen is real right now to them. So getting to see that and knowing that like I'm a part of like keeping that up and creating that environment is really special.
Sweet. And then Mason, what got you into the theme park industry, the entertainment sector? What'd you say?
I don't know if my response will be as orchestrated as Reilley's was, but I would say that definitely one of the biggest parts of it is morale. I get bored pretty easily working on construction projects, so I like to work on stuff that I'm proud of, and whether it's defense, automotive, like those things interest me, but nothing's really interested me more than just the idea that one day 5 years from now I'm going to be able to take my little sister through this attraction and like maybe convince her magic is real or something like that. Like
That's cool.
It's really cool, and it's a very great opportunity, and it makes me like passionate about it, and it makes me want to put everything I have into these projects. And yeah.
Oh, on average, like how long do these projects last, would you say? Some of the ones you're working on.
So it definitely varies. Like if we're talking about a pop-up stand at like Epcot and one of the Disney parks, it can be pretty short and it's done by like vendors. But if we're talking about like a brand new theme park, like Universal just announced their new Epic Universe that's opening in summer 2025. That has been in the works for decades, and a lot of it is the design, I would say, because it takes a really long time to design a coaster.
So do you guys get to have any input? Would you say like whenever you're building stuff in the theme park, like of like what you think should maybe like the designer should add into it, or are you guys just there tasked to build kind of?
It's kind of in the moment. We have meetings like every single day on these projects about like making sure the design's going in the right direction and that it's following what the vision for it is. But in the moment, like we'll see things and stuff that's not working and we'll brainstorm like in the moment as a group, like when we do differently. For example, like hiding like a sewer grate or something like that. Like create creative ways to hide it instead of just like, well, we have a sewer grate, like that kind of looks ugly in the middle of a castle. So
Mhm.
Would you say that you did a lot of like strategic planning in your internship in that sense?
it takes a lot of planning. So obviously these operations are billion-dollar operations. So, and they're running 24, well, 365 days a year. Like they don't close. So you have like, for example, Disneyland closes at midnight and it opens at like 8 or 9 a.m. So you have 8 hours that you can do work on stage, like where guests will be able to see what's going on. So you have to set up the work, do the work, tear it down, make it look brand new again so that we can go the next day without like disrupting service at all. So it's very much like planning. There's so many partners in the parks too that you have to work with to kind of work around this. You have people in dining, people in attractions. You have guest relations who will hear all the complaints if things aren't looking the way they're supposed to look. So you really have to plan around that.
Do you think that, like, so I know Hogwarts has already been built, like the Harry Potter scene, obviously. So the people that built that, do you think they were like, all right, guys, you need to watch the movies a couple times over and kind of get in the right place? Is
I
that
can actually speak to this because my mentors that I worked with on my first internship, they were the company that built the original Hogwarts. Definitely the biggest part of it is that when you're a contractor, you don't get any creative input. Like when you work with the GC, it's you do what you're told. Reilley and I have both worked on the owner side, so we've gotten to be more on the design and like the creative aspect of it. But when you're a contractor, you get the drawings, you build the drawings, and it's really not that different from traditional construction and the idea that we're just trying to cover everything and make sure that we don't get sued at the end of it. But definitely my boss that worked on that project and was the lead on that, he only watched like the first Harry Potter movie, I would say, because they do a very good job of the creative drawings and managing the vendors to make sure that they build it with the creative intent. So I would say it's more of the laborers and like the rock carvers and the creative people that design the show sets that would definitely have to watch the movies.
Yeah, very much an attention to detail.
Mhm.
One of my managers, we would laugh because she doesn't know the names of the seven dwarves. Like that's like a very basic like Disney thing, and she couldn't name them at all. So, and she works on these big projects. Like she is giving input, and it's like such a silly thing that we're like, how do you not know those? Like those are like classic Disney. But you don't have to. You just kind of have to know the details of it. There's also the Imagineers are going to take care of it. Universal Creative's going to take care of making sure it fits the story.
Can,
So.
can you give us a little background on an Imagineer for Disney?
Okay, so Imagineering is something that was created by Walt Disney back when he was designing Disneyland. I think there were originally like 18 of them, and they were the people who were coming together to meld this artistic side, the creative side, with the science behind how to make it happen. So an example of this would be creating the Matterhorn bobsled ride at Disneyland. It's like one of the first coasters that it's just like a very like original coaster, very original idea. So there's a guy who has only graduated high school and he loves cars, but he's designing all the physics and all of the sloping for the track and everything, and he's only doing it with a high school education back in the 50s. So but he loves the design aspect, so he pulls them together, and then you get like a great ride out of it.
Imagineering's definitely changed from what it was to what it is now, and I would say also Universal Creative has as well. Universal Creative is Universal's version of Imagineering.
Mhm.
It's gone a lot from. I've talked to one of the legacy Imagineers, and I just remember he was telling me about when he was building Epcot, and he made this one original attraction, and he like was just completely making it up. Like I had no idea what he was doing, but was just throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticked. And it's definitely transferred from that to a lot of those responsibilities have been put on the vendors, and then the it's become more of a like owner's representative kind of thing. So Imagineering will handle the Disney business side of things. Universal Creative, like they'll get the creative input. We'll have the creative directors, but a lot of the engineering is outsourced.
So would you say like the people that are doing the design, are they also engineers, or are they kind of like movie or Disney buffs per se?
A bit of a mix. So the artistic side, it's definitely, you have animators, you have architects, you have people who are experts in color. who understand color analysis. But then you also have the engineers who are like, the way that it was explained to me, there's somebody on a project called a producer who is taking the design side and the engineering side and making them work together, because creatives and engineers don't typically like to work together. They're very different people. So you'll have this producer saying, okay, well, this is what the art people want it to look like. And the engineer saying, well, this is not possible. It's physically impossible. And you've got to meld them together to get to like a happy medium.
Yeah, to kind of what Reilley said about that, one of my big projects at Universal when I interned there, I had to work with the creative team on just designing this one very small part of the park, this one like barely noticeable thing. And it took me like 6 months to just finally get it done, because it was such an iterative process of just going back and forth and saying, I don't like this, do it again. And I just keep doing it over and over and over. And the design side is definitely a lot more intense than you'd see anywhere else, I'd say.
Who's like doing the design checks? Is it just the creative team? It's like their final say on the design.
It's typically a matrix. So when there's disagreements, at least at Universal, the way we'd handle it is every team has to sign off on it. Every single person, we call them RIs, responsible individuals. So those RIs, as long as they all agree that this product is acceptable, but you definitely want to get kind of a unanimous decision when you're going for that.
And going off that, like, what advice would you give to young professionals trying to pursue a career in this industry? What would you guys say?
Say yes to everything.
Yes,
That's what I'd say. Reilley and I, we had to earn our stripes before we got our jobs. We've actually both did the Disney College program at the same time, and it was an experience. It's not like an engineering kind of thing. It's not really even an internship, but it's like more of a co-op experience where you work hourly at the parks, you work in operations, and you like get to know the parks and how they operate, and just the guests. You're guest facing, you're interacting with them. And what I found is there was a lot of opportunities when you were doing that. They had this thing called like Tech Behind the Dreams, where you got to go and speak to the Imagineers and do everything. And I wouldn't have gotten to that point if I just didn't say yes to every opportunity that was handed to me. Because if I stayed in my room as much as I wanted to, I wouldn't have gotten my job working with Universal over the summer. And definitely going out there, putting yourself out there, and because that's what networking is, right? It's going out there, making sure that you have a presence. And to do that, you have to be out there. You have to say yes to everything. Say yes to everything that's handed to you.
I'd agree. Yeah, going off that college program teaches you how to deal with people. That's the best, like, truly the best training to work with different people is being in a theme park where people are paying a lot of money to be there and learning how to interact with them. I would also say that saying yes to everything is super important, but I would say that understanding, like asking for feedback of where can I build, what skills do I have, and what do I need to gain to get to that next step? How do I go from being on the vendor side of things to being on the owner's rep side? That sort of thing. So yeah.
So is the Disney College, is that like part of the internship program you said, or is it like a totally separate thing? It's like a training going into the
Would you say you
internship?
have to do that before you'll get like an actual Disney internship, or what you could get one without doing it?
You can do it. So the way it's been explained to me, and I got to meet some former Purdue engineer grads when I was doing my college program, is that these companies like to hire internally. So doing this, kind of getting to know the theme park world, is a way to move up in that. You can get internships without doing that. You don't have to. But it's very much a good way to meet people and to build that network, which makes it easier to get jobs.
Another thing about that is that companies like Disney and Universal, they love to hire locally. So kids from University of Central Florida, University of Florida, they definitely do get a boost in the application portals and everything. And going down there, especially if you're from the Midwest or you're from a more remote location, and showing that like I'm willing to do this, I'm willing to come here, and I'm willing to learn, it says a lot, and just through your resume.
Yeah, I'd say in every single interview I've had after my college program, people want to talk about my college program because it's something that a lot of people within the Disney company have done, and they've moved up from there. So
would you say that communication is like the biggest thing you took away from the Disney College, you would say?
yes, learning how to communicate is definitely the biggest.
Okay.
So when you work for the Disney College program, is that what it's called?
Mhm.
Like how many hours a day are you working? Because you said the park's open from 8 to 12.
Yeah, so
8
as a
a.m. to
college
midnight.
program student, like you're typically working the shifts that nobody else wants. So like I'd say from 4 o'clock on, the parks are run by college students because that's who's working at that point. But we would work like I knew people who worked 6 hour shifts. I knew people who worked 10 hour shifts. It's a really big differential.
Some people call it the Disney closing program
Yeah.
because that's all we do. But it's a differential. I had a friend who worked in Tomorrowland, and sometimes she'd get like 50-hour weeks, and then I would get sometimes like 14-hour shifts. It would be intense. There was a lot, but it varies by your location, and you don't actually get a pick where you go when you apply for it. They just kind of put you somewhere random. I got very lucky. I worked in Star Wars Land. That was pretty cool. Other than the 12-hour shift on May 4th, but it was nice.
That's sweet. Yeah, would you guys say have like more appreciation for like the behind the scenes now of working in Disney now, going through going through it, you would say?
Definitely. I would say I have so much more appreciation and like I think I definitely thought about it more on my second internship managing projects about what the operators were facing. Like the people who were standing on the grill line, the people who were operating these rides, I was definitely thinking more about their experience than I would have had I not done that college program. So it's definitely a good way to like think more about the product and the people who are going to be using the product that you create.
Would you say like these projects are typically more expensive than you would expect?
Yeah. I will just say one of the projects that I got to work on just recently opened in Epcot, and there's some rock work in there, and the rock work was more expensive than any single other aspect of that project, like in the millions of dollars, and it's just like it's crazy. So the like show set aspect of it that really ramps up the price, and then you get these very specialty like European engineers who are the only people in the world who know how to engineer these roller coasters. You got to pay them a lot of money.
So the roller coasters aren't engineered by people in the US, or not typically.
It's vendors. So there's a few American companies that build roller coasters, but a lot of the big ones like Top Thrill Dragster and Cedar Point, all of that stuff, that's all done in like Germany, that area. Yeah.
Cedar Point is fun. I've been there.
What's like, you guys know any difference between like Cedar Point, Six Flags, between Disney? I think it's probably more design, right? You want to talk about?
Okay, so there's amusement parks and then there's theme parks.
Okay.
And like a very big thing. So Disneyland's like the first true theme park
Mhm.
where everything is telling a story. And the whole reason it was built was because Walt Disney was like, amusement parks are gross, they're dirty. I don't want to take my kids there. I want to take my kids somewhere that I can have fun too. So a theme park has a central story, like driving the entire park. An amusement park just has random rides everywhere. They're good rides, I will say, but
Do you think like Disney and Universal have kind of stepped up their ride game
Yeah.
to compete with amusement parks?
I think that they're definitely tapping more into the thrill market, I would say, with Tron recently opening. And I don't know if you guys have been on Velocicoaster at Universal Orlando, but it's a very, very good ride. And they're definitely realizing like a lot of people are saying that, this coaster that Universal just opened is one of the like best in the world. And they're definitely trying to become more of a thrill capital, I would say, because, people who are the adrenaline junkies, they'll go to Cedar Point, they'll go to Six Flags, it's like Universal, that's for kids,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's part of like keeping that mindset that a theme park's for the family. So you have to build those thrill rides in order to keep other members of the family. Like a teenage boy is not going to want to go ride the teacups at Disney World, but he will ride Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind because that's a coaster. So it's kind of like keeping that, how do we make all members of the family happy at once?
I went to Universal probably 8 years ago, 8, 9 years ago in Orlando.
Mhm.
And I was with my friend and my parents were there. And we were kind of like, all right, we'll go, we'll see what it's about. And we had so much fun because we thought it was gonna be like a kids park. And we were like, I think 13, 14.
Mhm.
And we went and we rode all the rides. Like there were, I forget which one roller coaster it was. There was no line for it. And it was like one of their bigger ones. And we just rode the thing like consistently over and over.
What's your guys' favorite ride to go on? Person.
Me personally, it's kind of a weird answer, but I really like Jurassic Park and Universal just because the thing is just so big. Like it makes no sense why they invested so much money in just a boat ride. And it's like there's these massive animatronic dinosaurs, and it's just like, what is going on? And I just love it just because of the scale, honestly.
When you're working at the park, can you ride the rides?
So on the college program, it definitely varied. If you're working at
Yeah.
if you're working at Pirates of the Caribbean, like we had these closing checklists.
I
that we
binge
had to,
watched all 3 of those yesterday.
In prep for this.
No, because I wanted to. I watched 7.5 hours of Pirates of the Caribbean
That is
yesterday.
awesome.
It's good.
But like on that ride specifically, you have to ride the ride to close the ride because you have to make sure all the animatronics are in order. And it was built at a time where like cameras weren't there, so you have to check that all out. And then I worked on a Smuggler's Run, which is a lot more high tech, so I never got to ride it unless if it was your last day, because the systems could all check themselves. But it definitely just depends where you are, I'd say.
Very different. I worked at Remy's Ratatouille Adventure in Epcot, and I had that ride every single night. We would ride it in the morning when it opened to make sure that everything's working. We'd ride it throughout the day. If somebody said, like a guest came up and said something's not working, we'd go ride it, see what's wrong. At the end of the day, we ride it. We would ride all the time.
So when one of these like roller coasters breaks, who do you call? Like,
So
is there like a
there's-
special roller coaster
there's-
mechanic or something that you're like,
there's layers to this.
Yeah.
So initially every ride has their own like tech services, almost engineering services is what Disney calls them, and they know the ride in and out. They do all the maintenance overnight. If they like something needs changed, they'll change the parts, they'll order the parts. But if they can't figure it out, there's this department in Disney, it's called sustaining engineering. And it's when the maintenance can't figure it out, you call those guys, and if they can't figure it out, well, they're gonna have to. So
And if things get really, really bad
Yeah.
and nobody knows, then they'll call the Imagineers back.
Yeah.
Whoever built it.
Yeah.
And then you're going to
So-
pay a premium to have them come and
Mhm.
figure it out.
yeah, and that's kind of the interesting part of how a lot of this works is like we mentioned before, Imagineer and Universal Creative, they're owners reps. And the way it actually works is that like Epcot, Magic Kingdom, Universal Studios, they're the customers. They will pay Universal Creative or Imagineering to make a product, deliver it to them, and open it. And then they will turn that over, and it will be like the parks baby, because the parks have their own engineering services, their own engineers, and then Universal Creative and Imagineering. Once it's over, once it's handed over, they're hands off. They don't really touch it anymore.
so is there like an apprentice program for like the people that are working on roller coasters? Like that seems like a pretty specific, like you can't just go from working on cars or like doing electrical work in a building to be like, hey, you need to fix this roller coaster over
They go
here.
through so they have like a training program that's pretty intensive. So you come in with a lot of knowledge anyway, because they're not going to hire some like 20-year-old who has never done work at all to be like, oh, now you can work on Indiana Jones and you can fix this really complicated ride vehicle.
Yeah.
Good luck. Bye. Like they have an apprenticeship program, yes, but it's very difficult to get into. It's because it's a job that everybody wants. So
Back when COVID was a thing, Cedar Point was really, really looking for mechanics and people to do that. So there was a lot of Purdue kids that actually went to like Cedar Point and Six Flags to be like mechanical engineers there and work on the sustaining systems. Yeah.
Okay, wow. Do you guys have like a favorite were you guys like Disney fans like growing up, would you say? Do you guys have a favorite like movie or like character growing up or something like that? I guess you can throw Star Wars in there now. I know it wasn't back then.
I don't really know my answer to that. But definitely that's like it's a question you get asked a lot at Disney, I would say.
growing up as a little girl in America, the princesses, huge. Okay, Disney princesses. Ariel was my favorite princess. So definitely had a favorite Disney character. I knew the stories because it's very an Americana thing to know Disney stories. Which I think is really interesting when you go to the international parks, is that you're selling this idea of American stories.
Interesting. Okay.
So
Oh, that's cool. Then how would you say Purdue prepared you for challenges you faced within your internships? Would you say how was the Purdue CEM program helped you guys?
I would just say the ability to work with people, and we get a lot of unique challenges. There's a lot of stuff that you really don't see anywhere else when you're working on these theme park projects, and just Purdue is very good at throwing things that you don't understand at you, and you learn how to deal with that.
Yeah, this unique thing about the engineering and also the management discipline
What-
too, and I think really helps.
What class do you think prepared you the most?
I don't even know that. I would say that specifically with CEM, Brandon and Rabita being so open, to just taking these experiences that are not typical. It's not typical for somebody in engineering to say, well, I want to go do the Disney College program, which has nothing to do with engineering at all. So them being so open and receptive to us trying these things and like pushing us to get to these goals has been the biggest thing I would say, to get us prepared.
Yeah, and now we're able to build a program, and young people are going to come into CEM and they're going to express their passions, and we can set up one-on-ones, tell them what we did, and kind of like forge a path forward to make sure that kids from Purdue, we can have the same opportunities that those kids from Florida have.
What would you say, like, the kids from Florida, like, what do they go to school for? Civil engineering,
It
like
depends.
entertainment?
There's some programs that have themed entertainment majors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Themed entertainment, mechanical engineering, ride engineering,
Mhm.
show lighting is like a big one,
Yeah.
actually. So a lot of kids choose specifically to go to school at these universities that are within like 10 miles of these parks because the people are there to network with. They'll come to their schools to give talks, that sort of thing. Which we're just now getting to that point with
Yeah.
Purdue of getting these people to come back and talk to us. Which is really great, like that we're getting it now, especially since there are so many actually Purdue engineers that work for these companies that you don't, like, I would never have known that until I met them. And then they're like, oh yeah, this person went to Purdue, this person went to Purdue. Oh, that person you talked to last week on that project, they went to Purdue too.
Yeah, and
So,
like I was at Universal and I just found out that like the senior vice president of this massive project is a Purdue civil grad. And I was like, how did I not know this?
Wow, okay, but so would you say that these people from Florida, do they work through the school year going within their major, like studio line or something?
Could you do like the Disney college experience and still be a student? If say you go to school about 10 miles away.
So I actually was still a student at Purdue when I did the college program. I took online classes. I did what was it, Calc 2 and physics. It was terrible. I hated it, but I did it.
it's definitely difficult.
Yeah, Disney, they actually on the campus they have study rooms where you can
Oh,
go
nice.
and take your exams and everything. They offer free proctoring. Like it's definitely made so that you can stay in school while you do it.
You just have to work really hard
yeah.
because you are working a full-time job at the same time.
Yeah.
But I know, like, I have friends in California who extended their internships for another 6 months and are like, and I'm going to go back to school now. So I'm going to go to school and I'm going to do this full-time both. So are they really stressed? Yeah, but they also are getting a lot of experience now.
Thank you. Okay, sweet. And then like what do you think what differs from like the entertainment construction jobs compared to more traditional construction, like working like a warehouse or tenant improvement?
Have you guys worked on like a regular project before?
There's some parts of themed entertainment that are just regular projects.
Yeah.
We build warehouses.
I think some of the biggest difference would be the amount of money you're spending.
Yeah.
And how detail oriented you are, because everything's under a microscope in themed entertainment. Whereas like if the concrete doesn't look perfect in a warehouse, nobody's really gonna care. If it doesn't look perfect at Universal, at Disney, somebody's gonna complain. So
They're very serious about their sidewalks.
Would you say they're you have a tight budget or do you have an open checkbook?
It depends where you are. And it depends where you are in the project because that decision is made by the people who are 5 chairs above you.
how urgent is the issue
Yeah.
at hand, I would say.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely been situations on projects where we need to open in like 2 hours and we need a solution right now.
Mhm.
And we're gonna pay whatever it takes to get open right now. So
On the project sides of things, when I was working with Universal, I think it went back and forth at least 5 times on we're buildings over budget. What are we doing? And oh, it's fine. Just throw money at it. Like
Yeah.
you gotta spend
it's-
money to make money.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, the return on investment on these parks is massive.
Mm-hmm.
And Comcast knows that. All the big financial shares know that. And like Epic Universe will probably pay itself off within the first 10 years.
I think the biggest lesson learned was that there's the price and then there's the Disney and Universal price.
Wow.
So they're gonna charge you more just because you're working for like a big name.
What would you guys say is like most like advanced innovation you say in like roller coaster rides? Like terms, I know like my example like going to Six Flags, I mean like turn upside down. That's like wow. Cool.
Yeah. I got to do a behind the scenes tour of Hagrid's when I worked for Universal, and that was really intense. Like I think I had like 7 launches, something like that, and there's this massive hydraulic cylinder where the track just drops. Next time you go to Universal, you got to ride it. The wait's consistently 3 hours, and it's just I understood none of that.
Can you help us out?
I have no, maybe I don't know. But it's like I don't get a single thing about how that thing works, but the people around me, they do, and it was really cool to see that, and just there's so many parts that just come together to make something like that.
So are these projects have like subcontractors for like electricians, carpenters, or do you guys is everyone employed by personally by Disney?
To get into if we want
Because
to get
Florida's non-union.
if we want to get technical with it, like Disney and Universal, it's more like multi-prime contracts, I'd say, because they manage the ride stuff on their own.
Yeah.
When I worked as the GC, I didn't touch the rides. If I tried to touch the rides, I'd get my hands swatted.
I mean, like if you're building we'll go back to I only know the Harry Potter one. If you're building the Harry Potter one, say we're gonna build it again today. Does Disney hire like electricians themselves, or are they gonna call Ben's Big Slices electrical company?
Yeah.
It depends. So if it's a big project like that, we're gonna bid out a contract for it. But if it's like a smaller project, like we're refurbishing something, or something like that, or we can go in-house because we do have that staffing of electricians, of plumbers, of HVAC people. And the amount of people, like crafts that work at Disney is truly interesting to me, because it's so vast, the differences. And I learned about a craft that I didn't even know existed. I didn't even know that was an option.
Which one?
So it's called, what it's called now is electromechanical technicians. However, back in the day, they were called arcade technicians. They just built arcade games. And I didn't even know that was an option. So I walk into what we call the arcade shop, and there's fortune tellers and pinball machines. And they're like, yeah, we built these by hand. We built everything and designed it. And that was really cool.
Yeah.
Who knew that was an option? That I could just build arcade games all day long.
They have illusionists too that focus on just special effects, and just a lot of it is still done in house. Yeah.
Do you have a lot of professionally trained magicians? Is that is that a thing, or you saying?
Are we talking card tricks?
Yeah, something like that could do with interesting illusion, something like that. Or
I mean, a lot of they're just very good with the technical aspects of it, like Pepper's ghost effect. I don't know if you've ever heard about that. It's like a glass mirror, it's like smoke and mirrors kind of things, and it's just when you're in the haunted mansion and you see the scene of all the people dancing on the ground, it's how do they make them transparent? How did they do that? It's just they're the people that'll figure it out.
With new technologies coming out, do you think they're updating any of these old rides that have been around for 30, 20 years?
Yeah.
They have been, okay.
It varies. Some of them,
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
yeah. So at Disneyland, there are rides that are considered historical sites.
Yeah.
So you can't, Pirates of the Caribbean is a historical site. You can't change a lot of it.
But how long has that been built? The movie's only been out 21 years.
So the ride
came before
inspired
the
the movie.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this whole movie is based on this ride that people loved.
didn't know
So
that.
since it's
Is this
been
this is
around
at
for so
Disney
long- Yeah,
Yeah.
it's at
in Orlando.
So no, so the original one is in Anaheim at Disneyland, and then they built a copy of it in Disney World.
Same thing.
Yeah, same ride, basically. The scenes, the order of scenes change a little bit, but it's the same concept. But historical sites, restaurants that you can't change the theming of, that you can't change what they look like at all, because they've been around for so long. You can't change the train station at Disneyland because it's a historical site.
Which Disney was open first?
Disneyland.
Disneyland,
Is that in
California.
If you want to have your mind blown, you can search up the Shanghai Disneyland Pirate of the Caribbean ride, and that's insane. That kind of answer your question about just the technological advancements of everything that's going on. And Reilley was right about the historical site stuff. I mean, if you want to go back in time to when Disney announced that they were changing Splash Mountain, there are riots.
People will riot over changing rides because they are so passionate about it.
Very explosive Instagram comment section.
I was in Paris for spring break, and I was going through customs to get through to get into Paris after I got off the plane. And there was a family there. You could tell they just came from Disney. Ears, every kid had their Disney shirts on, whole family did. And I was
love
like,
matching shirts.
yeah, I'm like, wow, you guys went a long way to go to Disneyland or Disney World.
Disneyland Paris.
It's Disneyland Paris, yeah.
It's what?
Disneyland Paris.
No, they were coming back. They were the one in Florida.
Oh, Disney
Oh,
World.
okay.
there's Disneyland in
Anna.
And
Anaheim, and then there's Disney World, which is in,
Orlando,
and then what else is there?
You know, there's a lot.
Disneyland
there's a
Paris,
lot of Disneyland.
Shanghai Disney, Tokyo Disney. Oh, I'm forgetting one. Hong Kong?
Universal
Kong.
has parks too. Universal.
I thought this was just like a USA thing.
No, there's Universal in Beijing. It's all over the place.
That's the really interesting part, I think,
Yeah.
is that Disney, Universal, this theme park idea is so American, and it's such like an American culture thing that people overseas love Disney. Like so much that Japan paid for Disney to put a park in Japan. Like they funded the whole thing because they love American culture so much.
So do you think the international parks bring in more revenue than the US parks?
It's definitely where they're investing right now. So I don't know if that answers the question, but
So yeah, part of it is because so Disney pays for everything in the parks in the US. Like we're the investors. In Japan, at Tokyo Disney, there's a company called the Oriental Land Company that pays for everything. They are the owners. We are the designers. So they pay for everything. So they're willing to invest a ton of money in it because
And they pay for like the name and the rides. And,
they pay for it all. So
Yeah.
like the innovations you see there, going back to has technology updated, have the rides updated. When you build when you build the ride again, you'll update it with that technology.
Mhm.
So Pirates in overseas has newer technology. Frozen overseas has newer technology.
If-
But it's the same ride.
If you had the opportunity to go to say like a new country that was putting a park up to build like a whole new park, would you go?
Oh yeah.
a lot of young professionals are really excited about international work. And it's definitely growing, and that's where a lot of the new technological advancements are. I have a lot of friends who like they're planning on going overseas, even to the Middle East, even just to go and build those parks. And that's kind of another interesting thing. The Middle East is also seeing a lot of investment in theme parks. I don't know if you saw it, but like there's this one ride called like Falcon's Flight, I think it's called. I saw it at IAPA. It's like this 600-foot tall coaster. It's going to be the fastest, tallest roller coaster in the world. And it's just like, because they're funding it. They want it there, and they want the Middle East to be the thrill capital of the world.
How long is this ride? Is it like 10 seconds or something?
It's massive. It like comes off the edge of a cliff, goes all the way down. I can't even describe it. There's renderings on YouTube if you search up
Okay.
Falcon's Flight.
3 minutes is like a good
Yeah.
estimate of how long a ride lasts.
Yeah.
Now, when you're on it, you probably don't realize that it's only 3 minutes,
Mhm.
but it's 3 minutes.
And that can vary a lot too, because if you look at something like Rise of the Resistance, like it messed with actually because California had laws about how long a ride could be,
Really?
and like yeah. But it's like, it changes on the experience you want. When you're at Six Flags or you're at Cedar Point, you want it to go fast. You want there to be a lot of trains so you can get a high throughput. And then something like Rise of the Resistance, they have to hide that throughput behind a lot of things they want, because you want it to be an intimate experience, and you want it to be like you're in a cell alone with Kylo Ren and he's like force manipulating you or whatever. But it's like it's like, and that's another thing about the technological advancements. It's like that creative way to solve those problems and to make it seem like you're the only one, when in reality that ride can send like 2,000 people through an hour.
And
I don't
with-
know if that's the exact number, but
And talking about the Kylo Ren thing, are you guys using like AI in terms of like maybe we talk to like Kylo Ren or something's gonna give a generated response back?
They're not that up to date yet.
I haven't.
AI, okay, so with the use of AI in these parks, Disney and Universal are, I would say, almost more secretive than the government when it comes to keeping secrets on how they build things and how
Mhm.
things happen. So AI, that risk, they won't use like Bluetooth even. I remember like Bluetooth on, because also these parks are like, because they're so American, they're also like a target for like terrorism typically.
Okay.
So they keep these safety things in mind, like AI, like that can be hacked. Anything that can like be easily manipulated is not going to be used.
Would you say there's a lot of analog stuff in these parks?
Yeah,
Yeah.
almost everything's analog. When we worked on the rides, everything was physical buttons that you could press. You could automate the whole thing, I'm sure, with cameras and everything, but it's just the safety factor of it as well.
Yeah.
You want to have a human behind there because you want the liability.
That's true. Okay, as a never thought about that factor of it.
Another like interesting thing is that like with the secretive stuff, the only thing you're ever gonna find out from Universal is just the patents that get put online.
Yep.
And people, like, there are Twitter pages that will go patent hunting, looking for like
Universal
what,
patents.
yeah, like for what they're putting out there. Disney has patents too, and just it's It's intense.
Recently, construction documents got leaked from a Disney project, and I'm sure that Disney's lawyers are coming after whoever leaked it.
Yeah,
Like, it's insanely secretive.
Yeah, and when I worked on Epic Universe, there's like a full day orientation of just like, hey, here's mistakes that idiots have made in the past about our like intellectual property. Don't do that again. Actually, every single job you do at Disney, no matter what it is, if you're a vendor, if you're working there, they have this one specific training, and it's like about this dog in a car.
You wouldn't leave your dog unattended in a car because somebody could steal it. You wouldn't leave the dog's like supposed to be classified documents. Like you wouldn't leave it alone.
I've done that training like 5 times.
Yup.
It drives me crazy.
It's really funny though,
It is funny.
because it's like a dramatic voice narrating, but they take their training on document like control and secrecy very seriously.
So just stuff you guys know you can't disclose, I'm guessing, right?
There's some stuff we can. There's some stuff we can't. Like my project that I worked on at Universal just got announced. The How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berg. So I can say I worked on that. That's about it though.
That's all you can.
But before it got released, you couldn't say, "Oh, I was working on this." No,
Nope.
I was just working. You have to say, "I was just working on a project at Universal."
I could say Universal Studios project and then the numbers. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
My
it.
project for this summer hasn't even been announced yet, so
Mhm.
as far as I'm concerned, I'm not working on anything this summer.
So do you like sign like a
NDA.
yeah, or something like that?
Everybody signs NDAs. I actually when I worked as a contractor, I was with Whiting Turner on Epcot. That's as much as I can say about that. There was like I ran this bid process for one of our final scopes of work, and to bid on the project, the subcontractors had to sign NDAs and do the puppy dog IP training. Like,
Yeah,
it's-
it's really intense.
What is Epcot? Epcot's Universal, right?
Epcot's with Disney.
It's one of the parks that
It's the
Disney
one with the
World.
big golf ball.
What's the
For the world, right?
is that the one where you can do like the wine tasting of the world?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It is.
Someone was telling, because like I've worked in Tampa in St. Pete, and they were like,
Yeah.
"Dude, you gotta go to Orlando
You do.
and do the wine tasting around the world or whatever."
The
for a day."
craziest thing I ever saw there was a pickle milkshake.
Ooh.
Like,
And
really creative.
I went because we actually, my offices there were like inside of the park. So I went out for my lunch break and I got a pickle milkshake, and I came back, and I've never seen more looks of disappointment than when I did that.
I mean,
What,
I don't
was it
blame 'em.
worth it? It wasn't worth it.
It was worth it. Honestly, it was actually really interesting. It was a very like, you wouldn't expect the briny milkshake to work, but it did.
It did. Okay.
Yeah.
Dude.
Pickles actually taste. It tastes like pickles, like actually.
It tasted like vinegar, I'd say, more than anything. But it had like it was sweet with like
So they get creative.
with
Yeah.
like salty. Yeah, they get
Creative
creative.
in everything.
Yeah. And that's another thing. It's just like there's so many different aspects of it. And when we're designing these facilities, when we're figuring it out, it's obviously I'm not thinking of how are they going to eventually make a pickle milkshake in this place. But it's got to be modular. There's got to be ways that things can change, and especially with like maintenance bays and stuff where they bring in the ride to work on it later. It's like you have to think logistically because this park's going to change, right? Disneyland is not the same thing it was 50 years ago, and a lot of that is done by the park. So you have to be able to design it with that intent.
Going back to your question about how it's different during doing construction and themed entertainment, you're not going to see a lot of design build.
Yeah.
I know design build is becoming a very big thing in the construction world outside of entertainment, but inside you're building something so specific that you cannot just like do a design build type of contracting. You have to have it designed fully fleshed out, all ideas dealt with before you start building. Because I know a story of like they tried to do design build and the amount of change orders that they ended up having because things go wrong and they're not ready. Like it's just not worth it.
Would you say there's a lot of change orders?
So
But I
many.
thought this stuff has to be like meticulous, perfect.
As well, creative people have a thing for loving to change their minds.
They do. They love to change their minds.
But on Reilley's note, you won't see design build, but there have been cases of what's it called? Integrated project delivery. That's how they built the Star Wars lands and some other stuff there. So it worked really well for the contractors and the subcontractors, but eventually they phased it out because the senior leadership at WDI just wasn't a big fan of it.
It seems like the parks now don't just cater to kids.
Yeah, they're
The-
supposed to cater to families. So like
Yeah.
a whole family experience.
What do you think?
I think it's a whole family experience. I mean, I love going to the parks by myself though, just going out there. It's always fun, and it's just Because it's kind of like just a nice escape, just being able to go there and just kind of forget about everything. And it's, I mean, it's why we build the places, right? So you can just forget about stuff.
Is there any Indiana Jones rides?
Yeah.
Is that at Universal or Disney?
Disneyland.
Disneyland.
Seems like Pirates of the Caribbean, Indiana Jones, all at Disney.
Those your favorites?
Probably. I could binge Indiana Jones easy.
Yeah,
Cool,
nice.
yeah. Okay, well, how would you guys say like creativity played a role in your career so far?
I think that creativity just has to drive everything.
Mhm.
And it's not even just like creativity and like artistic creativity and problem solving. And I need to close this space off. How can I close it off and make it look like it's part of the show, that it's always been here? Creativity and how you communicate with people
Mhm.
and how you deal with difficult people. I think it's so important, especially because as engineers, like like engineering is inherently supposed to be a creative discipline, but we kind of lose some of that with all the science and all the like math behind it. So if anything, I'd say that themed entertainment brings back that creativity into engineering, where it should be anyway.
And to kind of go off Riley's point, like she mentioned earlier, that there's like people who specifically work on color, and like that's exactly what they do. I'm colorblind. Like I can't do any of that. And like I'm a musician by trade, and the one thing that this has taught me is just that there's so many ways to be an artist. And there's so many ways to communicate a creative vision. You can do it through contract drawings, you can do it through colors, you can do it through numbers. And that's definitely what I've learned. And on that note, you know, being a musician, being like able to creatively feel that, it's definitely helped me a lot when I work with the creative people. And it's helped me like kind of speak the same language as them and understand what they want.
Do you guys ever move rides?
I don't think Universal or Disney specifically are like big fans of that.
But have
Yeah,
they done
it's happened. I mean, like they like
There's a famous story of when they're building Disney World, they built the carousel. And when Roy Disney looked at the carousel and the alignment with the castle, he said that that was no good and it needed to move like 2 feet to the right. So
they moved it 2 feet to the right?
yeah, so I don't even know if that's a true story, but that's like a very famous story of like things have to be perfect.
But actually, there's like this one coaster in the Middle East. Once again, it was built by a Saudi Arabian prince, completely modular. It just follows him wherever he goes, wherever he wants to. Yeah, it's possible.
That is sweet.
Yeah, I'd love to buy one of those someday. For my...
Put in my backyard.
Yeah.
Just have a giant roller coaster in your yard.
Yeah. And then if you could change anything you've done during your time at Purdue, what would you change and why?
I would say, I think that I'd do a few things differently. Get involved with other disciplines of engineering. Knowing how to read a single line on an electrical plan, understanding how to read like mechanical systems drawings. It's like construction engineering is very focused in civil, but taking that time to take classes in the mechanical school, in the electrical school, because you're going to encounter those outside of entertainment even. I'd also say I would have gotten involved more with the creative side, the artistic majors more, just because learning kind of that side. After I graduate, I plan to go for a master's in interior design to get that creative side. So I think it's so important, especially like in this industry in particular, to understand how creatives work if you want to be an engineer in it.
Is that a 4+1 you're gonna do?
It'll be a 2-year program.
2 years. So.
I guess what I would change is like coming into Purdue, I was really introverted. And it wasn't until I like worked at Disney that I got out of my shell. I wish I met Reilley when I was at Disney. Like, I feel like that's a failure on my part. Like, how did I not know there was another Purdue CEM person there?
There's only what,
You're
50
so
of us in our grade? I
Yeah,
think?
it's like what was I doing, man? But yeah, it's like kind of on that note. Like, I really wish that I got to know other people a little bit earlier, so that way when I go to these places and I understand everything, I'd have somebody to call, right? Like now I have electrical engineering friends, and when I don't understand something on a drawing, I still can't read one lines, I'll just shoot them a call, and they'll give me an answer, they'll let me know what to do. And you know, just like those relationships, like I just wish that I could have started those earlier, I'd say.
Do you think, back to your master's program, do you think Disney will pay for that? Do they do
They
higher?
have a program where they will pay for degrees. I don't know if they'll pay for that one in particular, but I think that it'll be useful, especially in moving up and moving like towards more where I want to go. So
Yeah, it's called Disney Aspire. And it's how they it's why Disney can maintain such a large workforce, is because they pay for their workers to go to college.
So you went from Disney to Universal now?
I went from Disney to being a general contractor on a Universal project. Then I moved to a general contractor on a Disney project, and then I worked for Universal.
So you're like kind of flip-flopping sides here and there.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
everybody does.
is that a common thing between
Yeah,
the two parks that
that's
people
kinda
go Universal Disney, Universal Disney?
When Reilley was talking earlier about how Disney used to do everything in house, all that like engineering stuff, a lot of that is like vendors now, right? Because they want to have the work, they want to make the money, they want to be able to work for both of these things. There's this one very reputable company called Nassel. They do rock work, they do scenic props, and they get contracts from both Disney and Universal, and it's stuff that they're very capable of doing in house. But since they're able to move it out, it's just better for everybody.
So-
Yeah, I'd say along with that, I don't know how it is for Universal, but at Disney, Disney trusts their vendors
Mhm.
inherently.
Yeah.
Like basically gives them the keys to the park and walks away and lets them do their work. Which to me, when I first got there, I'm like, that's insane. You're letting them run around this park with like nobody watching them. And they're like, we trust them. They know like how big of a deal a Disney contract is.
Mhm.
So they're not gonna do anything to jeopardize that.
Because if you lose the ability to bid on Disney work, it's not a good day, especially if you're located in Central Florida.
Yeah.
It's like I guarantee you, like at least a fourth of the people that you're gonna meet in Florida, like 10 years from now, they're gonna have had something to do with like the Epic Universe project or something to do with Disney. Like it's the center of the market. It's
I've family friends that live in Orlando, and I think one of them works for Universal.
Mhm.
And like he didn't go to school for anything like that. They live there and he works for them. And they also moved there because they love Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People who live in these cities, like surrounding these theme parks, all in some way have something to do. They know somebody who works there, they work there, their neighbor works there, the person bagging the groceries at the store worked there at some point. Like it's very much everybody is a part of that.
When you like roll in there in a car, it's Disney Universal everywhere.
Yeah.
Like you are just fully immersed.
even in downtown. Yeah, but it's kind of a really nice sense of community almost. It's like going there. Let's say it never feels like anybody's a stranger. Like you always have some kind of common ground to bond over, whether you hate the parks or love them.
Do Disney and Universal look at each other as competitors? Or kind of just like we're both up here, we're gonna be here, or do they kind of look like I'm gonna knock you off or I'm gonna knock
I
you off?
think it's more so like they're driving each other doing better at this
Yeah.
point. Like they're upping the level of what we need to get to.
Mhm.
Rise of the Resistance, when Disney builds that, challenges Universal to build something as good. Universal's building Epic Universe, that challenges Disney to meet that standard
Yeah.
now. So they kind of go back and forth, and I think that's like really important, especially to like drive that innovation.
And then a good way to look at it is, like look at SeaWorld. Like when Universal builds Epic Universe, it's not gonna hurt SeaWorld. It's gonna be great for them. Because now you got all this brand new traffic that's going to come in. MCO is probably going to have to build another 2 terminals. And then it's like, people are going to tag on SeaWorld to their trip. Or when they come to visit Epic Universe, I guarantee you, like 75% of the people are going to buy tickets to Disney World.
People
Like,
come
it's-
from all over and will plan like multiple week vacations of hitting all of these parks in the area.
Yeah, you
So-
can't drive out another park. You just can't do that.
That's just crazy.
Well, I guess we got time for sort of rough, but we got Q&A we can do from the people out there. So we got some questions here from anonymous attendee. Is there anything that surprised you about your experiences working in Disney University?
I would say working with people, the thing that surprised me most were you'll meet a lot of people who, don't get me wrong, they love their jobs. They aren't like Disney people. They don't know all the stories.
Mhm.
So, and that's kind of like almost a misnomer. I think that people think that to work at these places, you have to be like all in on the stories. So I think that was the biggest surprise for me.
Like I've met people like who haven't even gone to the parks who work at that place.
And they
it's
get
like-
in for free and they don't go.
Yeah.
It's expensive to go
That's,
too.
Yeah, but a thing that surprised me the most is like I'm when I went to Universal after working with GCs, I've never worked with creative people before, and that was just kind of a shock to me of just how to be in the creative mindset, how to work with those people. I just didn't understand how iterative it was, but now I get it.
Sweet.
What's the next one?
Next one. What did behind the scenes with the architects and Imagineers look like? Was there a lot of people drawing, brainstorming ideas, etc.?
There's a lot of brainstorming. So they call this like big idea, like blue sky,
Yeah.
like anything's possible at this point. However, the amount of ideas that will get thrown out or like locked in a safe and never touched again, like you could get almost to the point where we're ready to build something. And they're going to throw the idea out and they're like, actually, we're not going to do that. We're going to go a different direction now. So people are always creating. It's just, you're not seeing everything that's being created because it's not deemed, I don't want to say good enough. It's just not something that they would put. It doesn't fit anywhere right now.
How long is like the design process? Would you say like if I'm always going back to the Harry Potter one. Like how many years does that have to be in the works before they're like, all right, we're gonna start digging a hole and putting some foundations in?
For
Longer than it takes to
reference,
build it.
yeah. For reference, I'm gonna be working on a project that's gonna take 7 to 10 years to build. And when you think about like how massive a project has to be to take that much time, triple that basically on how long people have been designing it because they've thrown out a million ideas to get to the idea they're at.
It's cool. It's really open, like cumulative area, like an incubator.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, it's an iterative process, right? I mean, the only experience with Blue Sky I have is when Imagineering accidentally left their drawings up on a whiteboard when I went to have a meeting in there. But it's just they're constantly designing, they're constantly coming up with new ideas to pitch to the executives and hopefully get something greenlit.
Love it. And then, what's been the biggest challenge you've had to face during your internships?
Failure. I think like my first experience, I guess I'll talk about it like it was my first love, but like when I worked with PCL Construction, I had this superintendent named Alex Fox and I hated him so much. And now I love him, right? But it's like, when I worked with Whiting Turner and Universal, they didn't give me as much opportunity to fail. Alex, he threw me in the deep end and he was like, you're sinking or you're swimming. And I failed like so many times and I hated it so much and I never wanted to do it again. And I'd go home and I'd cry and I'd just be like, I want to quit. I never want to do this. And then I'd come back the next day and it's like, I can't run from my problems. Like I have to solve this. And that really conditioned me to be the engineer that I am, to figure out and like have the problem solving skills. And it's like when I went to those next roles, like I didn't fail as much, right? I knew what to look for. And I at the end of the day, I have to thank him, and it's like I have a great relationship with him now. Absolutely love the guy. But it's just that was the greatest teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say the fear of failure is a great driver for like pull you up by your bootstraps, like go. On the team I just finished my internship in December. The team I was working on, I was the only project manager for this entire team. So I get thrown in and they're like, we're treating you like a full-time, like you have your degree already. You're planning these. Like, here's everything. We'll check in weekly with you, but like it's all on you. So you're setting up these projects, you're planning, you're bidding out to vendors, you're picking your people who are going to build this, and it's all on you.
Yeah.
So it's very scary. But it's also it's like molding you into being like, I think having those responsibilities definitely helps grow you into, they're not waiting for you to graduate to teach you how to do your job. They want you to do your job right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's helpful.
And kind of the piggyback off of that, like I was in a similar situation with my first internship. It was like a $500 million project, entertainment project, and I was the only civil field engineer. Like I had to do all that. And I haven't even taken a construction class at this point. I just got out of Calc 2. Like I don't know what I'm doing.
Still in high school, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. It still feels like that. But I'm like yeah. They treat you like a full-time employee no matter where you are. Like they don't baby you.
It's not like just get your boots wet. You're just diving full in.
It's not like you're following people. Like my internship that I did outside as a site design intern, like I was kind of like trailing. Like I was doing stuff on my own, but I was following most of the time somebody else and watching them do their job. At Disney Universal, you're thrown in. This is your job. You have to get it done. So
that's cool. That's awesome. But then, did you take college courses during your time at Disney college program? I think we already answered that.
Yes.
Yeah. But like to kind of add a little bit more to it, like they're very good. They're very adaptive of it. There's this program where you could before you go in, you can ask for specific time off in the week. Send that in before you go, and then they'll make sure you have that time off pretty much every day. And it's really great, as long as you don't request it during closing time, because
Yeah.
that's usually the only time they'll deny it. But Disney understands. They know that you want to do it, and they obviously want you there, right? Because they want the boost of that, and they want you to come down, and they need the work help.
Yeah, I'd say I did a lot of my BIM minor while I've been away, and having electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, like I can talk to them about my schoolwork. They know we're students, and they're like, "What do you not understand? Like, let me help you understand how to do this. Let me show you how to do an electrical design or how to design a chiller." Like, they'll show you how to do those things.
That's nice. Then, how did you transition from Disney Universal?
So it's very different, you know. When I worked at Disney, the construction projects were run in a very different way, and then when I went to Universal, it was a lot different too. Not only because I was going from the general contractor to the owner side, but you know, it's a different ship. There's a different captain. They have different mindsets. You know, Disney at the time, we were working on just a renovation project. It wasn't anything crazy. They weren't like, obviously behind the scenes, they were pumping a lot of money into things, but the morale was kind of low almost, because it was like, we don't know where we're going to go after this as a general contractor. Then I go to Universal, and it's just like, we have this massive theme park that's opening summer 2025. Go, go, go. Everything's greenlit, everything's going. And, you know, it was just that kind of change in the mindset, I'd say. But the process of everything, virtually the same. Like, it's the same kind of creative directors. You got the same people you got to go through, the same red tape almost. So, yeah.
I'd say to go along with that, just like I just thought about this, part of the reason that I think themed entertainment is a good place within construction is because, at least for like a Universal, a Disney, you can be placed into like a campus type environment.
Mhm.
Disney owns this much land, and if we're going to build something here, it's going to be on this land. So you know where you're going to be. Like, if you want to have a family, if you like people who move all around the world, like every 2 years, having a family is really difficult. Working at one of these like theme parks where they have like a set location and you know where your projects will be, if you want to have a family, that's a great place to work because you know you can set roots there. So,
And, you know, you can really do anything you want in entertainment. There's a opportunity where, once I graduate, it's like I could go to the Middle East and build coasters there and travel all around the Middle East, come back, and it's like only for 4 months at a time, get a fly first class on whatever, and just go to China, build a coaster there, teach them how to build it, because, you know, they have like, this is new to them. They haven't done it before, right? And work with those vendors. And then also there's the opportunity where it's like, I could just go to California, Disneyland, Disney World, and just like Reilley said, stay on the campus, build a family. So there's really something for everybody.
Do they help with housing of that nature? Like, they put you guys off somewhere?
So to be pretty transparent about it, Disney internship programs, you can pretty much have guaranteed housing with that. They have this thing called Flamingo Crossings Village. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the like Swoozy video on YouTube where he talks about like Vista Way, but it's new, it's brand new, but it's like the college campus housing, right? Like it's a very interesting pool because you get people from all these different schools who come there, and everybody that you're gonna meet. Yeah. And like when we went to March Madness this year, our Final Four run, I knew somebody from every single school that we beat, and God, I sent them so many messages. I sent them the scores and everything, and I was like it's great like that. And then Universal, they don't offer housing, and they pay you $500 a month.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah.
You also, for Disney, like moving across country, since like we're out of state, they give like housing stipends. Like they give you a stipend to move. Like
Yeah.
thank you so much for moving across the country.
Yeah.
Here's some more money.
Yeah.
So it helps to kind of like set you up then.
Yeah.
That's sweet. Well, that finishes our we have for Q&A right now. We have any final remarks you guys want to say?
I would say to anybody who is looking to go down this path to not get discouraged. You're going to be told no a lot before you get a yes. And when you finally get that yes, give it everything you have. I don't know. I applied 2 rounds before I got my first internship with Disney. And I know people who have applied a ton. These are very competitive internships. Lots of people want it. But if you work hard, like you just have to really give into it.
So I guess to kind of piggyback off of that with my closing remarks, I got denied from every job I ever applied for, like my freshman year. I was struggling to find something for the summer. And the way that I got my first job, I went to a TEA mixer and I met this one random guy. I had no clue what he did. And then lo and behold, he was a senior superintendent at PCL Construction, and he got me my first internship. And it was pure luck, but you know, luck is just what happens when preparation meets opportunity, right?
Well, yeah.
So like you're gonna reach a lot of roadblocks, but you know, maybe the next day you're gonna meet that superintendent, you're gonna meet that person, and you're gonna like everything's gonna just be all right.
You never know who's around you.
Yeah.
For like, I came home for Thanksgiving and I was flying back to California. Sitting next to me on the plane is the principal designer for all the Chick-fil-A restaurants ever. Like, you never know who you're gonna meet. So always be prepared, like have your elevator pitch ready, be ready to talk about what you do. You never know who you're gonna meet. So
And my final remark, and the thing that I like want everybody to know, is like networking is not asking for jobs, it's making friends, right? It's like I can't tell you how many times I've gone to these mixers, I've gone to the events, and I've like seen people at IAPA, they go up, first thing they hand is a resume, like, oh hey, what do you do? And it's like you can't fake to be interested. Like go up there, talk about sports, talk about Purdue's Final Four run, rub it in their face a little. Like who cares? As long as you can like bond over that, that's gonna be the best thing. Like one of my mentors, one of the people that I really appreciate and got me here, like I became friends with them because I just made fun of them about the Music City Bowl when Purdue beat Tennessee, and now I get to send them a message about the Final Four run. It's like that's how you should build those bonds. That's how you should make those connections, and just like value the person over their position.
Yeah.
It's a very small world once you get into it. I knew an intern at Disneyland that was going to Universal. They were super nervous. I'm like, oh my goodness, guess what? I know somebody who's about to go work at Universal. Also, here's Mason's name. Here's his contact info. You should talk to Mason. So then you have a friend.
I wound up
Right.
driving them to work on the first day.
Yeah. So like, it's a very small world. You just have to find your in.
I like that.
I like that. Well, I guess it was this was our first live stream for Little Hammers production. We got over here. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. It's been Big Slice on the mic.
Tommy and
Mason and Reilley. Richard, you want to say any closing remarks? You're good. All right, Richard, just get over there. Okay, guys, remember any more questions? But you can email them. Hammer down
the week. Let's go Boilers.